So my name is Arin Sime. I'm here from Charlottesville, Virginia today. And if my connection holds out, we're going to try an international WebRTC call here. If not, I'm going to blame several different internet providers and take no responsibility at all, just to warn you. My company is AgilityFeat. We are in the US and Central America, primarily in Costa Rica. We build real-time applications. Lately, we've particularly gotten into WebRTC. So if you want to try and join into this, it's been a little spotty. I did actually visit a volcano a couple of weeks ago in Central America, and I did not make the proper sacrifices to the demo gods, and I'm seeing that today. So, but you can go to webinar.agilityfeat.com and you can log into the same application and give it a shot if you like. And what this does is you can make some comments in there. You should see the slides changing on your mobile device, that sort of thing. So we built this application as a way to play around with a couple of different things. One is real-time messaging, and the other is WebRTC, which is the one I'll focus on now. But I'll just briefly mention the real-time messaging side of it for now. Real-time messaging is you can implement it in a number of different ways. What we did in this is a publish-subscribe model using a commercial provider called PubNub that we have no connection to. They gave me a Frisbee at a conference once, but that was it. But we particularly like it for this sort of thing. And what it's nice for is it's a publish-subscribe data model. So great for building like chat applications, or like in this, letting people cast votes on a presentation and consolidating that up on the screen, that sort of thing. And then the second part that I want to actually focus on, though, is WebRTC. How many of you are familiar with WebRTC already? Okay, pretty good number. Good. Any of you building applications with WebRTC right now by chance? One, sort of. I would say we're sort of two. WebRTC is an emerging standard in HTML5. It's very new, it's very bleeding edge. So if I can't blame internet providers, I'll just blame the standard that this is all pretty early, but it's really fun to play with right now. And there are production apps starting to appear with it. WebRTC stands for Web Real-Time Communications. And the simplest example of how you use it, that most people would know it for, is building video chat directly into the browser with no plugins necessary, no downloads, no flash. That's the great promise that it offers. And so people kind of debate, could you use WebRTC to kill Skype or FaceTime or other applications? And I don't know that you really would, but you can build that type of functionality directly into your applications. And this is a quick little, and by the way, I'm assuming that you can see me on the slide there. Cool, good. You're seeing it too? Awesome. Yeah. Good. Good. Well, that makes me feel a little better then. So we're streaming through WebRTC out to anyone who logs into the application. My colleagues in Costa Rica and Boston who are logged into this right now are hopefully hearing me as well. And so the way that this works from an architecture perspective, it's peer-to-peer after some handshaking. So what you see in the diagram that I've shown you here is you've got two clients, let's say laptops. It's most widely available in desktop browsers right now, and by widely available I mean sort of half available actually. Firefox and Chrome support WebRTC. Opera just recently started supporting it. IE and Safari do not yet. And there is a question mark of whether they will or not. That's really kind of the biggest risk to implementing something in WebRTC right now, is it's unclear if Apple or Microsoft are going to support it. There's strategic reasons you might say that they should never support it. Microsoft owns Skype and Link, which arguably WebRTC is a disruptive threat to those applications. And on the Apple side, you have FaceTime, which is also arguably a threat to that. So some people say that maybe they won't support it, but they're starting to show some signs that they will support something like it eventually. I think they will eventually, but it may not be this year. Okay, but this is still a great time to start building these applications because you can really do some disruptive things with it, and you really want to be ahead of your competitors on this. So the way it works, you got these two laptops, both in Chrome and or Firefox. And you have to go to a central, some sort of agreed upon application, right? You have to have some sort of meeting place. When you're both in that application, it's going to do some handshaking between you. So there's a third-party server here that I'm showing at the bottom of the diagram that does what WebRTC calls signaling, which is basically saying, I want to call Jarrett. He gets a message from me and agrees to have a video chat with me. So that signal goes back through the third-party server to me. Once we have established a connection with each other, from then on, WebRTC does peer-to-peer connections between us. And that peer-to-peer connection is encrypted by default, which is kind of cool. So there's, I'm sure that there are certain, agencies in Washington, D.C. that could probably break into it if they really wanted to. But it's at least an appealing concept that you can have completely private, encrypted conversations through this. And as I'll mention later, that it has some real business applications too, like in healthcare, for example. So once you're talking, it is peer-to-peer. Video and audio. There's also a data channel in there too, which it doesn't get as much attention because people are just starting to kind of think about the possibilities of using that data channel. So any questions so far? While I grab it.
Is there graphics being thrown through WebGL, or is it something different?
So that's the other big debate going on in the WebRTC world right now is the video codec that they use. There's two competing standards for that is slowing down the adoption some. But once you have the video stream, it's all just displayed through an HTML5 video tag. And I'll show you the code for that. It's very simple. It's all JavaScript, basically. Any other questions so far? Cool. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
One of the things that seemed to me, if I recall correctly, that Skype is doing special is when they're dealing with home computers behind routers. So is there any issue with that here? That the two-way connection business and when both parties are behind.
Yes, there is an issue with it, which is why I was just checking my MiFi to see if my connections come back. Because oddly enough, or perhaps not so oddly, I got here a little early and was trying to test some calls with my colleagues for this, and we couldn't do it over the Shutterstock guest network that you may be on right now. It apparently is blocking the streaming video access, right? So this is a challenge, and there's basically two different ways that, generally speaking, that you can establish a WebRTC connection right now. That one is to implement the standard yourself, which is what this diagram here is roughly showing. One example from HTML5 rocks. The other is to use an API. We're using an API from PubNub. They have a beta WebRTC wrapper that basically handles the networking for you. But what the WebRTC standard talks about is when things are behind firewalls, you have to use a variety of different protocols, stun, turn, ICE servers, to try and get a connection through the firewall to the other client peer-to-peer. So you do have a couple obstacles here. First you have to be in supported browsers. Second, you have to be able to communicate peer-to-peer with each other and do one of these, fancy networking tricks. I'm not a networking guy, which is why I like APIs. I don't want to have to implement or host stun and turn servers myself. So So I like the idea of using, you know, a commercial platform that will handle that stuff for me, basically, and also simplifies the code that I have to run. So it is a challenge. It's something to be aware of, and it is a possible obstacle to adoption in the enterprise for WebRTC. But to me, anyways, I think a lot of the innovation around this is going to be in the consumer space initially, so that's not as much of a concern there. Yeah. We didn't evaluate them for what we're doing here, but TalkBox is one of the most prominent providers right now of WebRTC API tools. One of the things that I'm pretty sure TalkBox does, and others at least are working on, is if you can't support a WebRTC connection in what you're doing, then they build in fallbacks to like a Flash-based connection or something, so that you can still have people in other browsers, you know, together in the same conversation. So that's going to be one of the advantages of using, you know, a provider who handles that for you. But they're definitely a big name, you know, in the space to look well worth looking at. Okay. So, to someone's question, I mean, this is in its absolute simplest form. This is basically what you're doing when you set up the connection in JavaScript. You're calling get user media, which is provided by HTML5 now. You tell it whether you want the audio or the video. You pass in those parameters that you want, and it returns back to your callback method a stream, and then you just put that stream into a video tag, and poof, magically you have video in the browser. In its simplest form, that's all you're doing. Of course, there's always more to it. Okay, so there are a lot of different applications of this. Let me try and call someone. I think that particular one's going to work. Mariana, if you're hearing me, you probably need to make a new comment in there. What's that?
Are you connected on my phone?
I'm almost ready to blame your phone.
Because it made me connect on Shutterstock, so let me just turn the Wi-Fi off.
Oh, okay. Let me cancel that there. Okay, good. So Mariana can hear me, and I'm going to try and switch over here real quick.
So Wi-Fi's off.
Okay. No worries. I'll give this one more shot through here, and then I'm going to move on to a different method. Bear with me here. You can see it's not quite ready to kick Skype out. There's a little bit of a hurdle still to get these going sometimes.
I can't wait though.
The audience for another phone to try? Anybody have a Verizon phone, maybe?
I got a Verizon.
Yeah, you want to try and share your internet? Sure.
I'll keep talking for a minute while see if she reconnects in here. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay, gotcha. We'll give this a shot. Okay, so Mariana, if you join in, say hello. Okay, let me keep talking and I'm going to come back to that. So there's a number of different applications that this can work in here. Another different scenarios, excuse me. You're starting to see companies use this for contacting them online directly through the site for customer support. Okay, this is a tool called commercial offering called Kite that does that already. And so the advantage of doing support like this, the scenario that I imagine at least, is when I'm having trouble with my business banking site, as I sometimes do, and I have to call into their customer support and get elevated to the right type of rep to deal with the right part of the website that I'm working on. For business wire transfers is a pain point for me because we're an international business. And I have to explain to them my account number, what I'm doing, all these things like several different times as you go through the chain, right, of calling them on the phone. But if you can contact customer support directly where you are in the application, and it's built into the app so they know everything about you already. They already know that you're logged in. They already know what you're doing on the site. They may already know what error you just triggered. All of that can be sent to the customer rep right away, right? So that concept is, I think, a powerful one for doing customer service, that you can have a lot more yes! That's it. Almost. And this is the other fun part of WebRTC is echoing. All right, I muted my microphone here because I'm also streaming my audio to Mariana through this. So, Mariana, can we hear you?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, I think you're muted.
Okay. Well, let's try this one. Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. All right. How was that for a smooth demo? Amazing, right? Amazing. We only had to try several tools, a couple Wi-Fi's. I was rubbing some sticks together back here. Quite amazing, right? So this is super smooth, but still, we're on the bleeding edge here, so bear with us. This is a tool called Appear.in, which is one of the companies that is building simple video conference solutions using WebRTC. The nice thing about this tool and others like it, like VLine, and there's another company called Speak that's combining WebRTC with traditional telephony solutions, is that they say these things will basically replace your phone number, right? So I will be at speak.com/Arin Sime. And that's the way you contact me, and it goes to my phone, it goes to anywhere, right? Kind of like Google Voice did. So there's some pretty cool applications of this. I want to give Mariana a quick chance to talk about some of the problems or interesting challenges. I'm just going to try and turn it so you can see everybody here. Part of everybody with the design aspects. Mariana is at the beach right now in Costa Rica. Literally, and she's our lead designer at AgilityFeat. So, Mariana, just like a minute, what's painful and fun about this?
Okay, great. So there's so much possibilities with real time and how you can now connect people over browsers. Some of the difficulties of building the UX for this is definitely graceful degradation. What happens when the connection is not strong enough, or when you don't know if the other person is connected or can receive your calls. Another thing that is very important is making sure that the technology enhances the experience and not that the experience is working around what technology you can bring it to. So here it's very important to remember that although this is very new and challenging and interesting, we should always care about how the experience for the user is going to be and where it's great to bring it in. And then finally, feedback is very important. So it's very important to know when you're sharing your camera or your audio, when you're muted. There's privacy concerns, and there's also things like what is happening in the environment around others, what's also happening in the system. So feedback is not only about a user's actions anymore, it's also about other people that are trying to interact with you and other systems that could also possibly interact with you. So that's a 1 minute UX interaction there.
Thanks, Mariana. So there's a couple of privacy things built into WebRTC when you go into a site using it for the first time and say, I want to have that video chat with you. It's going to ask you to allow or deny my access to your camera, to your video and your microphone. So that can't be done without your permission. And I don't know if you can see on the screen, there's a red circle on the browser that is controlling, browser tab that is controlling the camera right now. So that if I leave this tab and I go do other stuff, it helps me to remember, in addition to my little green light, that Mariana can still see what we're doing here too, right? So you've got some things built into WebRTC like that, but you need to build it in as well to the design itself. Any questions for her before I move on? Yeah.
Talk about UX UI. Is there a possibility to blur or get a sort of blurring without putting a piece of tape over the camera?
Yes, definitely. So one of the cool things about this is once you have the video stream, you can manipulate it. That's not built into WebRTC, so to speak, but you can write other code around the video stream to manipulate it as you like before you present it to the user. So there's a demo online for converting your video feed into ASCII characters, and it's actually pretty darn responsive. So you bring up the page and you see you there, but it's converted all into ASCII characters on a white background, and if you move your hands around, it keeps up with you pretty well.
So the Matrix, basically.
Sorry?
The Matrix, basically.
It is the Matrix. That's right. Exactly.
So is it possible, since you said that it's using some HTML5 tag to show it, is it possible to do any type of transforms via CSS?
Can you say that question again?
Yeah, so is it possible to do any CSS transforms around?
Yeah, like do a blur or something like that.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be. It's once it's out there, it is just like any other video element would be in HTML5, and you can certainly apply overlays to it with CSS or whatever you want to do a mask of some kind. Absolutely. Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it at that point. Cool. All right. Somebody else is joining. Excellent. I don't know who that is.
Mysterious.
It's somebody in this room because there's an echo. At least I know that much. Cool. So I'm gonna.
So how is that getting another stream from another player if it's peer-to-peer? It wasn't an iframe. The server is mixing them together?
Yes, exactly. So WebRTC is peer-to-peer. So there's two ways that you can do it. If you're going to limit the number of people in the conversation, then you just have a star pattern where if there's 3 of us in the call, then I have to have 2 peer-to-peer connections, 1 to each individual person, and everyone else does too. Obviously that doesn't scale very well. So there are commercial providers that will basically mix the streams together, and so you just have 1 peer-to-peer connection to that server. Obviously, if you go that route, if for some reason the peer-to-peer or the privacy nature of it is important to you, you're losing that if you go to multi-party conferencing solutions. But companies are coming out with that for sure. Okay. All right. So I call this manual handshaking, by the way, Skype, because I still have to let people know, hey, I'm going to call you and stuff. So this is all part of the evolving standard. Hey, there's Alan, actually. Good. Alan, just say hello. This is Alan Naranjo. He did most of the, well, pretty much all of the development on this. All right, so let me go back to the slides now. Bear with me here. Okay, so we were around here. Okay, so we talked about inline support as being an option here. Whoever's joined in the room, you might want to go on mute for me. Or I will help you. So obviously video conferencing solutions, but to be honest, if you're thinking this is awesome, I should build a Skype killer, you're already a little late. That's a little bit of a lame solution at this point because there's a lot of companies like Appearin and V-Line doing a good job of that already. I mentioned healthcare though, so let's talk about this one for a second. A telemedicine app, okay? This screenshot is from a real telemedicine app, but so far as I know, it's not using WebRTC. But there are companies who are saying they're working on it using WebRTC. And the advantage of WebRTC in those situations is that it's peer-to-peer encrypted, which means that you are more likely to be able to get HIPAA compliance for remote telemedicine offers because WebRTC's got those key architectural components built into it already that are going to help with that sort of oversight. So whether it's a regulation oversight or whether it's just sort of a corporate thing that, hey, we want to be really careful about corporate espionage and stuff and keep our internal communications with remote workers secure, WebRTC is worth considering for that. Insurance claims, so imagine, so right now this is not widely supported yet in mobile, but especially once Apple gets on board and they've joined the standards committee now, so I think they will get on board with it. So once this is available on iOS, and even better if they make it like native to iOS, not necessarily through the browser, imagine you get in a car accident and the insurance company, you call them up to report it, and they immediately file the claim with you remotely through your phone. They say, will you allow me to turn on your video camera on your phone? I want you to walk me around the car, show me the damage, show me, where the accident happened, and claims adjusters no longer need to come out and see your car, right? So there are things like that where this sort of technology, making that easier to build directly into applications, could be extremely disruptive to the whole industry. All right, I think one of the cool things about this is just in-context communications in general. So a simple example of that, you've got your real-time data dashboard, your corporate data dashboard, and you can do conferencing around that data directly in the app. No need to have a separate go-to meeting or something like that. Manipulate the data together, that sort of thing. You had a question?
Yeah, so is that, are you able to record at the same time?
You can. There's nothing built into WebRTC about recording, but you can take that stream and feed it to something to record. So yeah, absolutely. One of the things people talk about a lot is building this into gaming. So a simple example is just building video chat into gaming. This is a demo game for Google called Cube Slam, where you're playing silly games, but you're at least seeing the person you're playing against, so that makes it a little bit more interesting. But beyond that, there's also, come back to that one in a moment, other applications like this one called Banana Bread, which is a first-person shooter game that's using the data channel of WebRTC for the data communications between users. So it has nothing to do with video chat or audio. It's just sending the coordinates of where your player is in the game, that sort of thing. And one other example of the data channel that's really cool to consider is PeerCDN, which I believe is the first company acquired that is based on WebRTC technology. Yahoo just bought them a few months ago. And what PeerCDN does that's really cool is basically they serve the images on your website to other people from, and so let me start again. 2 people are visiting your website. They're both in WebRTC enabled browsers. I was there first, so when you go after me, you're going to get the images and assets from my computer. So instead of paying Akamai, right, for hosting your images because you don't want to host them on your own servers, you're actually not paying anyone because WebRTC is pulling it from other people who are on the site right now.
Maybe closer to you geolocation-wise.
Maybe closer to you. They obviously have to be in the right WebRTC browsers, but still, for a company the size of Yahoo, right, if you can just shave a couple % of people from, serving the images from a CDN somewhere else, that probably adds up to big bucks, right? So this is an example where even without widespread adoption, you can build some pretty powerful, cool stuff. So that's like a pinpoint. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you're a media content company and you currently have customers where you're shipping the data to them encrypted, you said this is encrypted, so is there something built in that's going to prevent one of your video clients that's sharing the CDN, like you just explained, from grabbing it and sending it off to 10 other people that are not?
No, if you're my peer in the connection, then once you get the data, you have it, right, in clear text or, in its native form, and you can do whatever you want with it. The only thing the encryption is buying us is man-in-the-middle attacks. Someone can't snoop the traffic between us and get anything valuable out of it, just like an SSL connection.
Typically, you're not putting private assets on the CDN anyway.
Yeah, this is, PeerCDN, that's not, in that use case, it's not going to matter.
Question?
Yes?
Hi. So regarding PeerCDN, and there's perhaps a potential for something like a replay attack or injecting malicious code or something like that that could be evaluated on the client's JavaScript runtime. So what do you think about that?
I think that sounds intriguing. To be honest, I don't. I'm not a security expert, so I can't speak off the top of my head whether or not that's possible in this, or whether the sandboxing around the data channels would prevent you from that. I'm not
if it's
sure.
encrypted, then it would be hard to actually inject meaningful code. It might then be like.
Yeah, you're saying you could replay encrypted data streams. Yeah.
You might be able to send a hash of whatever small package of data you're sending along with it. Like this company, PeerCDN, probably has some way to mitigate that.
Right, like a timestamp or some ID.
Actually, PeerCDN doesn't know. I know the guy, Ferris.
Oh, yeah?
So he's actually, what they do, like they have a hash, they check first that the hash matches, and if it doesn't match, they throw it out. And if that happens too often from the same peer, they're going to kill it. They're not going to send it.
Well, so there's a hash, and if you fail the hash check too many times, they cut you off.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how we're doing on time here, but there's awesome questions and stuff. So I don't leave till 1 o'clock tomorrow, so I'm good. But I don't want to keep others. Maybe what I can do is mention 2 things real quick, and then I have code and some other tabs that I can show, and I'm happy to take more questions. But I also don't want to try to respect people's time. So we're working on a book in our company that is about using these technologies. I brought a few copies that I would be happy to give away. Actually, our book is not done yet, so I'm being a very creative guy. I put a sheet of paper over a real book that I will give to you. So it's actually like a bonus, because what you get is a real book, not about Node.js, but one I happen to really like that we bought a bunch of copies of, a lean entrepreneur. It's a lean startup kind of book. But the fancy sheet of paper that I put with it does have a promo code for a free copy of our book. The beta release of it should be in about 2 weeks. So that's one quick plug. The other second quick plug is if you're into this stuff, anything I've mentioned, we have a free, one of the weeklies, a free weekly newsletter called realtimeweekly.com that I encourage you to check out. So that's it for my plugs. I'm going to take more questions or show you a couple code snippets. Yes?
Back to TalkBox, they have on your website, they have a phone. Can you put this on a phone, or is that just marketing?
On the TalkBox website, you're saying they have like a picture of their app running on a phone? Yeah. So yes and no, right? So we did have at least one person here who was probably on an Android device in a Chrome browser that was able, am I right? That was getting the video stream from me. That's still through the browser. Google does plan on putting, is my understanding, WebRTC native into the Android operating system so that you can use it in native apps as well. Hopefully iOS will in the future. But the other thing that companies like TalkBox are doing is they're basically, as I understand it, re-implementing WebRTC themselves in Objective-C or wherever they need it so that they can include it in the apps, or they're using a gateway to then be able to connect WebRTC with, say, a Flash application together. Not that Flash would work on iOS either, but theoretical example. Okay, so Alan.
I think he's muted.
I think you're probably muted, or you're smiling quietly.
That's how I do it.
That's how you roll. Alan, you want to say anything about the coding on this? I have a couple of the snippets up here that I can show if you want to talk about anything.
Well, what we're doing is using Wrapup for real-time communication. So we use two ways of connecting people. First is with the channel. So that's, I don't know if you're showing the messages or comments that people send.
A little bit. I'm showing the publish and subscribe methods from PubNub right now.
Yeah, that's what this application is doing. At least the one that you're using for showing the slides.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we subscribe everyone in this application to the same channel, and we send different type of comments, flag as goals, comments, and slide changes. So that's one thing. And in the other hand, we have the WebRTC per se, which is sending a string through Wrapup, and that's what we use when somebody calls. Like if you sort of call me through the presentation, what we do is we have a peer-to-peer connection, and then you notify me that you want to stream your video and audio to me, and then I'll do the same thing to you, and that's how we make a call possible.
So I don't know if you could hear that okay in the back, so I'll super quick recap. What you're doing in the handshaking is you're basically exchanging identifiers and the networking information between the two clients, and then that unique identifier for the client we're using the PubNub API here, I can publish my screen and my unique identifier in order for people to communicate with me, and then I can subscribe to another. There's a couple ways I can complete the answer from them. but one is to use this subscribe method based on their unique identifier. And then PubNub handles the fact that we've now said, okay, these are our two streams and we can talk to each other, and it's establishing underneath its API the actual WebRTC connection. And in my case, when I'm subscribed to Alan and I've gotten his stream back here, I'm just passing that in to the source of a video tag. So it is 9 o'clock. I think I should stop myself there, but again, I'm happy to talk to anybody else who wants to.